education, access to contraceptives, access to emergency contraception.
This is the big one. This is the one that I find myself using it almost every time I speak. Has anyone else had experience using this type of middle ground message? Some other presentations I've seen have given it a funny name, like this is what we use for the mushy middle, or this is sort of like the emergency message that you pull out. I find it very effective, and I also find that for me personally, this is what draws me to this work. I'm looking at these issues as the things I feel personally strongest toward, and so it's very helpful for me to use it when I'm speaking to someone who maybe is coming at me in a very angry way.
And I like it because it helps people remember that choice is a broader umbrella that impacts other reproductive issues, so helping people remember that kind of brings them into a bigger circle, a bigger interest area.
And the last thing we'll say about this is the pro-choice community has in some ways done a great job getting our message out, and in other ways we've sort of fallen short in this sort of inclusive and holistic message. And so I think it's our responsibility as young people in this movement to ensure that the messages that we're putting out really do reflect our holistic values and that we're really not a single issue movement. And I think that also shows that you've been listening and sort of, I find that my best examples come from when I see other people being effective messengers. So I think that really shows that you've been paying attention in settings where you've been sort of picking up on some great role modeling.
And there's something about hearing yourself repeat a message over and over again that can be disconcerting because we're all self-conscious and we feel like, oh gosh, I'm playing the same tape over. But the reality of the situation is that people don't hear it that way. It's the same way you think you're droning on and on and on forever, and it actually is only seconds. You know, like sometimes when I have a stopwatch, I'll tell people, okay, a sound bite is 7 seconds, and they think, that's no time. I couldn't say anything in 7 seconds, when in reality, most people can get out 2 sentences worth of words in 7 seconds. So the self-consciousness, it'll be there, but you have to get over it at a certain point because you are going to be repeating yourself because people need to hear things over and over again, and you just need to get comfortable with that. The other good thing about repeating yourself is that you learn how to edit yourself more quickly. So you can adapt in different environments. When you know you have your go-to messages, you can use them, you can pull them out with different anecdotes because you gain a kind of a facilness, a flexibility once you know you've nailed the core messages and you know those are your go-tos. You learn how to add flourishes, or you learn how to punch up certain ones that are more important to a particular audience. So I just say this to kind of release you from the feeling like I'm going to sound boring and I'm going to be like the repeat monster. It's like it's important actually to be the repeat person because that's how it gets across, and that's when you start really impacting people's minds and maybe even changing behavior, which is great.
And I think the other important thing to remember is that we're young messengers. We're not sort of the Kate Michelman of this movement. We are youth and young adults. So it's really important that what we're saying is authentic to our generation, and we sort of speak directly to the fact that this is not Reverend Veazey speaking. When Reverend Veazey speaks, he has some very effective talking points, but we need to create things that really affirm the fact that we're coming to this from a student perspective, from a young professional perspective, and how that directly affects us as people of childbearing age.
All right, for the benefit of the group, I just want to remind you that we need your active listening skills because after we're done with the scenario, we'll throw it back into a group discussion for feedback. And this scenario is a campus newspaper interview. So I'm playing the part of the reporter. These two are playing the part of the SYRF representatives who I've asked to serve as experts on the HPV vaccine issue. So I have been asked by my editor to do a story on the HPV vaccine, and I went to the phone book, the campus directory, to see who I could call and who could, sort of speak on the issue, and I called them. Okay, thank you both for agreeing to do this. I have to file this story in like 2 minutes. So, so what is SYRF's stance on the HPV vaccine?
Well, we as people of faith, we believe that everyone should be able to make their own choices regarding their reproductive health. And we believe that everyone deserves options and information to make good choices for themselves. And part of that, is supporting this vaccine because that means giving young women an option to protect themselves from cervical cancer. So.
But, okay, so what would you say to people who disagree with the idea of spending tax dollars to support things like HPV vaccines or even abortion?
Well, actually, we believe that pro-choice our organization, we support pro-choice, and pro-choice is not just about abortion. It's mainly about comprehensive sexuality education, which we think everyone has a right to. It enables people to make healthy choices for themselves individually, decrease instances of sexually transmitted infections. It's also more of like a proactive approach to decreasing the instances in which people will need abortions or possibly even need vaccines, but just to kind of, have these as an option. We think it's very, critical and important.
And as people of faith and people of a spiritual background, we believe in equality of access, economic justice, and so by having it be something that can be covered by the taxpayers will give low-income women the option to protect themselves.
I believe that SYRF could be described as a group of spiritual individuals who believe in reproductive choice and justice. And again, I want to reiterate, when we say choice, we are covering a broad range of topics here. Decreasing instances of sexually transmitted infections, giving people options to better protect themselves and their communities.
Ladies! You could, I heard you use some highlighting language, right? What we were here to, what we want to remind people, there was some of that, like really kind of road mapping to where, I want to reiterate, yeah.
I would love Becky's opinion on is the part where you talked about the abortion debate. I'm just not sure if I loved the way that you sort of brought it back to this sort of main middle ground message.
Maybe sort of saying, well, unfortunately, it seems like abortion is not a right we can take for granted, or something that makes it seem more like, well, we thought this was put to bed, and why do we keep having to fight for this right that we've gained? So.
And this is my own personal thing, but I try really hard not to use debate or war. I find that those words make this seem much more militant than it needs to be, so I find myself a lot of times using the word conversation, which may be sort of not accurate, but I find that it feels comfortable for me to say.
Major faith traditions also advocate a free choice for women regarding her reproductive health, and also they advocate preservation of a healthy environment and a sacredness of the environment. So I believe those two ideas can be linked and one and the same together. We choose what to do with our bodies as we choose what to do with our environment, and our choices need to represent our values and represent the good of what is best for everyone, what is best for ourselves, including what we do with the environment and what we do with our bodies. One of the things I wanted to emphasize here is that the reason why SYRF is geared toward addressing a younger audience is because these are the people that are going to take on this message for the rest of their lives, and we have the opportunity to inform the generation after us. We need to keep that generational message going of what a free choice is and how women are affected by legislation and regarding the reproductive health. And also how the environment is also left up in our hands as well, and the future of it. Both environmental issues and reproductive issues are hot at hand right now in our U.S. government and legislation. Both are seeming to be like peeling away the justice issues with our depleting ozone and environment, and also seemingly that our rights as having a free choice are being peeled away as well through state regulations on who can get an abortion and what process one has to take to get an abortion as well. So I believe that those two are important to be seen together as a basic human right for a healthy environment and for a healthy body and for a healthy way and a healthy environment to make healthy choices for our bodies, for the preservations of our health and the preservations of our environment.